September 13th, 2019, Robert Plant steps onto the stage at the Harvest Music Festival in Fredericton, New Brunswick, a Canadian province with its very own town called Woodstock. But this wasn't just another gig for Plant. It was his first time performing here 49 years after his original attempt with Led Zeppelin at a festival that could have rocked history. Advertised as headliners, Zeppelin never canceled a show, but in 1970, things got complicated. Really complicated. This is the untold story of how Led Zeppelin faced off against the Canadian government, a battle of peace, rock, and relentless red tape. It's a saga of relocations, lawyers, and shattered dreams, as Canada's Woodstock came so close to rewriting music history. Join me as I go north to the land of ice and snow, where the hot springs flow, to uncover the making of Led Zeppelin's near mythical appearance at the 1970 Strawberry Fields Festival. Our story begins on September 13th, not Robert Plant's show in Canada, but September 13th, 1969, in Toronto, Ontario, at the Rock and Roll Revival. 12 hours of music brought together legendary acts, but none more surprising than the last-minute addition of the Plastic Ono Band, featuring John Lennon, Yoko Ono, and Eric Clapton. This moment right here is often cited as a key turning point in Lennon's departure from the Beatles.
Father was of the earth, but I am of the universe, and you know what it's worth. That's what I'm
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
While the Doors were the headliners, it was Lennon who stole the spotlight. Concert promoter John Brower couldn't have been more pleased. A towering figure in Toronto's music scene, Brower was Canada's answers to Fillmore's own Bill Graham, running the iconic Rockpile, a venue where rock legends like The Who, Frank Zappa, and Led Zeppelin made their Toronto debuts. Zeppelin in fact played 2 sold-out shows there on August 18, 1969, just weeks before the Rock and Roll Revival. It was a stark contrast to Led Zeppelin's first visit to the Rockpile back in February, where according to sources, they barely sold 20 tickets. But by August, the buzz around the band had exploded. In just a few short months, Zeppelin's rapid rise was undeniable. They were on the fast track to becoming rock's next megastars.
Now, do you remember playing in this building?
No.
Okay.
It looks a lot different, I think.
Yes, it looked a lot different, but I have photographic evidence that you actually played in this building. On the Jay Leno show, they would show a film clip, but we have photos.
Yeah, well, I do budget tours as well.
There we go. There's a shot of you playing right here. Take a look at that on the camera. Let's take a look at this. Incidentally, where you're standing in that particular photo is where you're sitting right now.
Really?
Woo!
Just like that, huh?
Here's one more.
But John Brower wasn't at Zeppelin's second Rockpile gig. He was returning from the Woodstock Festival, and there was another reason. Peter Grant, Zeppelin's imposing manager, had left a lasting impression on Brower during a 1968 Jeff Beck group booking at the Rockpile. Peter Grant demanded payment for 2 shows when Beck allegedly skipped the first. When Brower refused to pay for a no-show, tensions boiled over. Police and immigration officers were called in, and Brower faced down Grant, who, legend has it, felt the warning of a gun barrel pressed against his ribs. Charges of extortion were filed, only to be dropped later. Brower claims Grant returned the money, impured the song remains the same opening sequence style by throwing it to his face. Brower may have won that battle, but Peter Grant never forgot a bad business deal.
The main reason was to set up, with the help of some friends we have here, a peace festival for July in Mosport Park, July 3rd, 4th and 5th, all being well. We don't want to set up a Holocaust, you know, we just want to set up a peace festival.
John Brower's ambition was growing. Inspired by his newfound connection with John Lennon and Yoko Ono, though Frank Zappa might have doubts on Lennon's idea of friendship, Brower dreamed of creating his own version of Woodstock in August 1970. The tragic chaos at Altamont the previous December only fueled his desire for a countercultural response, one rooted in peace. After all, Give Peace a Chance, recorded in Montreal's Queen Elizabeth Hotel in June 1969, had inspired the Brouwer-Lennon vision for a peace festival. But of course, John Lennon himself was full of contradictions. Known for his short temper, he loved to preach, "Do as I say, not as I do." Lennon's War Is Over campaign had been conceived in Canada, but by April 1970, he was out of festival plans, focusing on his career after the Beatles breakup. That's Lennon for you. John Brouwer pressed on alone, setting his sights on New Brunswick as the site for the Strawberry Fields Festival, not named after the Beatles song, but after a real strawberry farm near the town of Woodstock in New Brunswick. The actual site for the concert though was Shediac, near Moncton. Festival dates were to take place August 7th through the 10th. But pushback came swiftly. Social justice activists argued festivals should be free, and city officials, fearing Altamont-like violence, refused to issue permits. Brouwer's biggest challenge wasn't geography, it was the Canadian government, which refused to grant a license, citing public health and safety concerns. It was a generational clash, the conservative establishment versus rebellious youth. And in the midst of it all, Brouwer had already started running US ads, with one electrifying name, Led Zeppelin. So where was Led Zeppelin in the summer of 1970? Fresh off a 25-date North American tour that ran from March to April, starting in Vancouver's Pacific Coliseum, the band returned to England for a well-deserved break. Between May and June, they resumed recording sessions for what would become their groundbreaking third album. By the end of June, they were back on the road for a brief 6-state European summer tour, highlighted by their legendary performance at the Bath Festival on June 28th. This would be their final British festival appearance until Knebworth 1979. The Strawberry Fields Festival was still scrambling for permits. Promoter John Brouwer, relentless in his ambition, had rebranded the festival as Karma Productions and moved it to London, Ontario. Yet once again, authorities shut down his request. Undeterred, Brouwer devised a clever workaround, advertising the event as the International Strawberry Cup Trophy Race, set to take place at Ontario's Mosport motorcycle track, with rock music performances framed as additional entertainment. It was a clever ruse to bypass fears of another Woodstock-style festival. Meanwhile, in the US, the event was promoted as a full-scale, 3-day festival with detailed instructions on how to get there, getting high, and unsurprisingly, Led Zeppelin's name was drawing attention. With 50,000 tickets already sold, Brouwer had technically secured a venue, Ontario's Mosport Park, but the Ontario Provincial Police weren't backing down, stirring public fear about the decadence of American hippie culture by distributing films and giving lectures at local town halls. Okay, let's talk about the original concert poster for the festival. Brouwer had nearly $350,000 to secure top-tier acts like Leonard Cohen, Jethro Tull, Procol Harum, Eric Burdon, written Eric Burden with an E, and rockers Cactus, featuring Vanilla Fudge drummer Carmine Appice. Woodstock veterans like Melanie, Mountain, and Sly and the Family Stone were also on the bill. But what had fans most excited? Led Zeppelin. By then, their second album was the third best-selling record of 1969, just behind Abbey Road and Tommy. But as August approached, disaster struck. The Manceau Pop Festival in Quebec was a failure, with only 20,000 attendees instead of the expected 300,000, and most of the bands didn't show up, but Dr. John. This was of course bad news for Canadian festivals. Then came the definite blow to John Brouwer. On August 6th, Ontario's Attorney General, Arthur Wishart, discovered Brouwer's ploy to disguise a rock festival as a motorcycle event. Wishart took swift action, threatening to shut it all down, jeopardizing those 50,000 tickets sold. In a last-minute decision, the Supreme Court gave the festival the green light on August 7th, just hours before the music began. A small motorcycle lap took place, technically justifying the race, but the real draw was rock music. Fans were ecstatic, but where was Led Zeppelin? They were nowhere to be found. An article released just before the festival discussed the legal battles of the organization against the authorities, as well as American ticket holders slowly arriving at the concert grounds. A spokesman for the promoters denied Led Zeppelin and Procol Harum appearing at the festival, yet the same report featured John Brower himself, quote, "Led Zeppelin is giving us a very bad time. They got a $30,000 deposit, and now they're saying their contract was for Moncton, and they're only going to play Moncton." So remember Moncton? It was the original site for the festival. And here's where things get strange. Check out this July 27th, 1970 memo sent to all 4 Zeppelin bandmates for their North American summer tour. It states a Quebec City festival, August 7th, with a next day show at Moncton. The only Quebec festival was the before-mentioned Mensopop Festival, where Zeppelin was not on the bill. Their August 8th Moncton date kind of confirms the previous arrangement with John Brower, but then again, the site was changed by April 1970 to Ontario. This raises the question, didn't Brower let Peter Grant know about this the minute it happened? Was this a case of communication breakdown? Given the sour history between Brower and Grant, dating back to their 1968 dispute over a Jeff Beck concert, it seems unlikely Grant would let things slide. A $30,000 deposit may have been Brower's last payment to the band, and Grant's way of closing the chapter on their feud. Now I don't understand Mr. Brower's newspaper statements. What did he think would happen? I'm amazed at promoters who didn't like to deal with Peter Grant, yet they wanted their cut of that sweet Led Zeppelin money on their events. The fact that he said Led Zeppelin agreed to play Moncton and now they were withholding a deposit was pointless self-defense and proved them right. The conditions they agreed upon changed. What real guarantee could Brower offer when the Strawberry Festival was in jeopardy up until the last minute? I don't think promoters should badmouth artists that bring a lot of money to the table, you know? If you don't like the band, don't work with them. Plain and simple. The more you look into the business side of things, the more you understand the hate against Led Zeppelin. They knew their worth and had the muscle to fight, unlike Grand Funk, who got screwed by their own manager. Never mind promoters. Yes, talent is important, but 90% is the organization, the business strategy, and being street smart. But wait, the Strawberry Fields Festival wasn't the only August 1970 event that had a no-show by Led Zeppelin. Let's go back to that tour memo. August 14th, Boston College. The first annual Boston College Festival was to be held at College Stadium with Led Zeppelin and a big supporting cast. The one-day festival was expected to raise $300,000 in profits to build an entertainment dome on the Boston College campus. Check out J.J. Jackson doing a small promotional bit for the event.
Then there's the Eagle Rock Festival coming up on August 14th out at Boston College right here in this city. Tickets are priced at $450, $550, and $650. Now they'll have Lighthouse, the Allman Brothers, Buddy Guy, Junior Wells, the Stooges, the Amboy Dukes, Catfish, the American Dream, Swallow, the MC5, Big Brother and the Holding Company, Stock Forest, and of course Led Zeppelin.
So what happened? Well, just like Canada, Boston authorities withheld the permit and the whole thing was cancelled. Back in Canada, loyal rock fans got a well-deserved prize on August 29th, 1970 in Winnipeg for the Man Pop Festival. Led Zeppelin stayed at the International Inn and were ready to rock the stage later on. Their fee? $50,000 for a 2-hour set. They were offered $35,000, but negotiations settled for 50 Gs. Now, this festival did replicate a Woodstock 1969 incident in the way of a nasty rainstorm that interrupted the schedule for about 3 hours. You'd think they would cancel the show, but no. The organizers moved the audience into a nearby arena where the concert was resumed. Rock fans were to be thankful to one of the festival's main benefactors, the Manitoba Centennial Corporation, led by Maitland Steinkoff, a former cabinet minister who stood his grounds against conservative politicians trying to shut down the event from the start. Back at their hotel, Led Zeppelin was partying hard while worried about the concert's PA system and improvised light show. The government of Manitoba was to pay the remaining $25,000 in local checks. Peter Grant decided he wanted US cash instead. Other bands at the hotel started to think the same thing. Tensions grew. Maitland Steinkoff pulled a magic trick and managed to get $25,000 on a Saturday night in Winnipeg 1970. Talk about a miracle. Everybody wondered how he got the money, but he did. Peter Grant signaled his boys to get ready for showtime. Past Iron Butterfly's performance, Led Zeppelin took the stage around 1 a.m. on Sunday and performed with a big smile on their faces until 3 a.m. It was worth the so close and waiting time. Canada witnessed the greatest band of the 70s in full force. Their setlist included 3 cuts from their soon-to-be-released album, Immigrant Song, That's the Way, and Since I've Been Loving You. Led Zeppelin's live set was a sign of musical evolution. This was not the band that played the rock pile in 1969, but an unstoppable momentum. They come back in August 1971 for the Canadian live premiere of Stairway to Heaven in Vancouver. So back to Robert Plant 2019, he announced his North American tour, and a Canadian news outlet decided to use a Live Aid 1985 photograph to let everybody know Robert would headline the Harvest Festival. I call this lazy journalism. It's super lazy journalism. Why this photo, I wonder? Not even a solo artist pick? Was it so hard to do the research and realize this 1985 photograph had nothing to do with Robert Plant's career at the time? Anyway, Robert Plant and the sensational Space Shifters took the stage for a 13-song setlist that included Zeppelin classics, Ramble On, Black Dog, The Battle of Evermore, Babe Ain't Gonna Leave You, Gallows Pole, and When the Levee Breaks. None of these tracks would have been performed back in 1970, so it was a special treat for Canadian fans that day. Oh yeah, and Robert played 1983's In the Mood from Principle of Moments.
On my way.
It was a rock and roll full circle in New Brunswick. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for the next Led Zeppelin story. Bye bye.